back with another episode, you know, the At Ease podcast and everything. And we got our guest with us who needs no introduction. You know, he's the Chiefs. You know, they held many positions throughout the mess in the Navy, you know, many leadership roles and hats. You know, tied for 5 years now, Master Chief Ray Kemp. Again, if you've been in the mess for shoot, I don't even know how many years, you've heard him speak, you know, a great speaker. Just last night, we was fortunate enough to have him at our khaki ball guest speaker, and he did not disappoint. You know, he never do. Wasn't my first time hearing him speak. And again, he's enjoying a retired life. Kemp Solutions. And again, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. But y'all got my motor running.
Yeah. All right, sounds good. That sounds good. That's what we do.
The cool thing, though, is I think that I've been around long enough for people to know if you invite me, it's going to be me. Just be sure you want me to come.
Yeah,
because that's all I got.
That's what we like.
All I got is it just takes too much energy to have a representative. I ain't willing to pay them anyway. So I'd rather just be me when I show up. But one thing that was a challenge, you know, because ultimately this question began, or this line of answering came from what happens when you don't get what you deserve. One thing that was a challenge for others in my career was my level of confidence. And so growing up in the era and in the place, born in the great nation of Texas, raised in Oklahoma, in that era, it was, don't be seen, you know, keep it low. Because if they see you, you might be in a very, you know, disastrous situation. Right. And I'm speaking very specifically to black and white because that's the era I grew up in.
Yes.
What I realized, though, is that if I don't have a sponsor, then I won't make any room, particularly in the Navy or in outside organizations. What I mean is that it's one thing to have a mentor, you know, somebody who's at the top of the thing, super successful, whatever the case may be, who's doing whatever your job is, who's willing to say, hey, this is what I did, and get your finger in my belt loop, keep up, and I'll show you how to do it too. Okay, that's good. Mentorship, it's important. But sponsorship, having someone in a space that you don't even have access to. Maybe you don't even know that room is there, and they saying your name in that room in such a way that's going to create space for you to grow into who you are. Now, modesty is one thing. Humility, the whole different thing. Now, there may be a fine line, but it's not the same. Humility would be the perspective of we're all important. There's not one person more important than the other.
Correct.
Modesty would be, I'm willing to tell you exactly what happened and what my contribution to that thing may have been. And so I'm 10 toes down. I'm standing on business, period. It's just who I am as a man. And in some circles where they were confusing modesty with humility, they were uncomfortable. And when it came down to the MCPON selection, so I interviewed for MCPON, probably one of the best interviews I gave in my career, and didn't get chose. From my perspective, when you have a middle-aged white man choosing middle-aged white men for the last 50 some odd years since we had Master Chiefs of the Navy, no surprise I don't get selected. I'm bliggity black, you know what I mean? And on everything at all times, and it ain't never been no different. The thing is, I wasn't necessarily offended by that, but I was talking to this dude yesterday, and he's like, man, the Navy messed up, I'm like, bro, the Navy's going to choose, and, you know, before your eulogy gets read, your job application is going to be out on your job announcement is going to be on the street. And so I'm not caught up in what happened in the past, but what I will say is that I wasn't doing the job for a position. I was just doing the job because and I was performing in such a way where I remembered them Kemps back home. I remembered, you know, my grandma and them, you know, who were sending up prayers and had expectations. Even though, you know, my mother passed away 5 years into my career, my stepfather passed away a year into my career. I didn't have parents as an adult male. So I tell my children all the time, I have 3 girls and a boy, Alexandria, Nile, Cairo, Raymond Jr., Mahogany, Zaire, and Celeste Nairobi. And they're all 23 years old, grown and you would not believe them kids now. When me and Susan were together on Truman, they used to be around. But anyway, grown and gone, youngest is 23. And I'm like, man, I don't know how to be a dad to adult kids, because I ain't never had one. Yeah, we'll figure this out. You know,
figure it out.
Yeah, and just keep it pushing. But what I would tell people who don't get that thing that they thought they deserved, what are you doing it for? You know, are you doing what you do when you do what you do for the attainment of some measure of success?
Right.
Or are you doing it because you have a true passion for it?
No.
I got caught up in that Navy, the mission first sale as always, because I literally believed and understood my impact on the globe. And so if I worked in CBIC when I was younger, and so I knew the importance of this computer system I have that provides information to the intel specialists who give it to the pilots who are going to fly up above and put warhead to forehead. You can't drop bombs without comms. And so, just a plug for all them ITs out there trying to figure out if they're doing the right thing. But if I don't do that and the enemy has an impact on the globe, well, that's my fault. And so I just believe that because I understood my why in the world, that it was important to do. And so it wasn't necessarily about getting selected for a job.
So you just said a whole lot to kind of unpack, and
My bad.
a lot of
it's so much more ingredients inside that message.
It's so much more, right? And get what I keyed in on is getting what you feel you deserve, right? And for us in the chief mess, it was a lot of great leaders who we felt should have been in that role as MCPON. You particularly one of them. April Beldo was another. And the one thing y'all have in common is how you look, who you represent, right?
Oh man, being black is hard. It's hard in the world. It's definitely hard in this super white Navy. And it's hard to be a woman. My God, to be a woman and in the Navy that we have today, and certainly the Navy I grew up in, is just hard like a diamond. It's hard.
So do you think, because other branches of service, they've already made that happen, right?
With regard to having a black CSO.
Absolutely.
The Air Force actually had a female.
Right.
And
he was like Spanish.
Beldo in particular. I thought like, hey, we could have touched two birds with one stone. Black and female. When do you think the Navy will make that happen?
There's a super high chance when so Lisa Franchetti is CNO. I known her from back in her three-star days. In fact, I just spent some time with her in Paris during the commemoration of the 80th commemoration of the D-Day landing in Normandy. And she's the type of person who would choose, somebody who is the most fully qualified. That's the type of person she is. However, the pathway to get there, so what ends up happening, the tertiary effects, third, fourth order effects of not having someone in that seat that looks like you is that it becomes disheartening. Yeah, I'm not one of them. I'm not one of the people who says this, but it is commonly said that I cannot be what I cannot see. I'm running up stairwells. It's dark. I done figure out the cadence. I'm stepping and run like I think it was Martin Luther King who said you can't get to the top of a dark staircase without first taking a step. And I'm running up the steps. I don't need somebody. I don't need a way. I'm gonna make a way to shine a light when I get to the top. And the thing is that when it doesn't seem possible, then a lot of people, taking that off ramp and deciding, they're not going to do it anyway.
All right.
Why would I stay?
Why waste?
Right.
Waste time?
So now, why do you?
More time?
I'm sorry, Sue. Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
So, why do you, you act right now in your life, in your career, still just giving back?
Yeah.
Without stride. You just, within stride.
Right.
You just never stop.
Well, I think it's important for us to be our authentic self. And at some point in my career, what became important to me was the pathway that I laid for others.
Right.
And because oftentimes them same people, I can't be what I can't see. Watch this, hold my beer. or my bottle of water, whatever. Hold this while I work this thing out.
Right.
And just get me in the room.
Right.
And when people see that measure of immodesty, because I think that immodesty, particularly for us sitting here, is important. For too long, women didn't have an advocate.
Right.
For too long, other minorities didn't have an advocate. And this is not a black and white thing by any means, because everything I'm saying, each and every one of us ought to do. Because if we're operating in a level of authenticity, we're operating in a level of, forgive the language, inclusion, then we're creating space for everybody to get down. And just get me at the starting line, fire the gun, say go, and see what happens.
And so, and that's what I feel like, people such as yourself, as April, like you came in, you blazed the trail, and you showed people how to get in. Each person, they went a little farther, right? And so my question to you now is, okay, I got a young chief who just made it, right? And their goal and aspiration is, I'm going to be McPon, right? So what should they be doing now to prep themselves for that? What answer would you give them if they came to you and said, okay, you made it to this far, you interview for the job,
right?
So we getting
and
closer
I killed that
and closer.
Interview, by the way,
you killed it.
We getting closer and closer,
crushed it,
right? And I have another question in regards to that too, right? But what would you tell that young chief who has those dreams and aspirations to, okay, I'm going to be it,
right? And let me jump on that, because I don't know what age or what pay grade you were at to have that same thing that he's speaking about. Was it chief? Was it senior chief? Or was it just like, well, I'm a match chief? Because we all see it. Some of us see it.
Right.
In that dark room, like your eyes are still wide open and you can see it. Like, I'm going to get there.
Right.
I'm going to get there. So what he's saying is like, yeah, we want to know.
To me, if someone told me they wanted to be fleet, and they have, I want to be the fleet, I want to be the first this, I want to be that. And this might be a non-traditional answer, but it's just who I am. So, put your seatbelt on, deal with it. That breaks my heart a little bit when somebody says they want that thing and they got a label. My hope would be that people would say, "I'm gonna get after it and then see what happens." I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
okay,
but I'm gonna get after it with all I got to give, and then see if this is truly a meritocracy. Yeah. Let's see if this place is a place where if you are the best at what you do, you get chose, you get selected. Over the past, clearly it wasn't. But when it comes down, but now, we have to deal with the water we swimming in.
Right.
And so, let me give you this, high speed American crawl. And then if I need to, I'm going to turn and give you the side stroke. And then if I really need to, I'm going to turn around and tighten up on my backstroke. Whatever. I'm going to give it to you. I'm just going all out. Right. Somebody told me when I was younger, when I was a chief, this is a life lesson. They said, Raymond, your Pastor Ben Jones, Dr. Ben Jones, he said, Raymond, your responsibility is effort. God's responsibility is outcome. So you need to pedal, take your hands off the handlebars.
You and I are similar, that we are not only just really sort of very confident, but we're also large.
Right.
And I mean that in the nicest way, right? Like, I'm a 6-foot woman.
Right.
With a lot of attitude. I got 6 feet of attitude. I got 6 feet of opinions. You know what I mean?
True
I got all of the things, and you are similar, because you are a large man and you are black and I am a woman, right? And so I just that just really resonates with me, because I'm just, even in life, I mean, there's still not a place for women. You know what I mean? There's still not necessarily a place for a black people, and my heart is always for the black woman, to be 100% honest, because when we start talking about the pecking order, it's white man, white woman, black woman. Right. You know what I mean? And so I mean, just listening to you, I know that I just listen to you because, I've known you for a long time. Right. Truman was for me, and you actually for me. It was really, it was sort of reinvigorating. I wasn't supposed to go to Truman. I was actually supposed to go to Roosevelt. They were supposed to give me a break. You know, I ran Nassau's decommission. I was in charge of the decommission, the entire decommission. Yes. I was in charge of the entire decommission. And then, you know, I was supposed to get a break. That was supposed to be my thing to make senior chief. And then I get to Truman and, you know, and again, I met with, what was the guy, the one that you relieved? I can't remember his name.
Mark Bather.
Yeah. He was someone who subdued anybody that wasn't a master chief. But I was a department. I was a department.
Yeah.
LCPO. And so I was in those rooms with him, but I had to remind him that I was also a chief. And that was the reason why when it had our rank, that chief came before the master and the senior. So I just wanted to make sure that he understood that it didn't really matter because I was in the room with him. But he definitely tried to sort of hold me down. And so, you know, when you got there, it was like, yeah, the skies sort of opened.
I think with some people, I think great leaders find a way to build strong teams. Sometimes you end up being the smartest one in the room. It just happens. But the way to gain momentum in that is to figure out how to, you know, stimulate the innovation in everyone else. Sometimes you're clearly not the smartest one in the room, but you happen to be in charge, and then you bring folks in closer to you. And so, just full disclosure, when I first met Susan. She's striking, you know, tall, attractive lady. You instantly like, let me brace for shock, just in case, because what happens is that in the era that I grew up in, that Susan grew up in, it was important to be kind of masculine and edgy so that people don't try you. Don't think I'm soft. Don't think, don't let this femininity fool you, because I can bring the heat same as you. And so, not Susan, but some people end up being a little bit over the top, a little bit overly masculine. If they have a masculine appearance and they've got some size, again, that creates some concern. But when I first met you, I knew you was wicked smart because I did my homework. That's just what I did. I'm looking people up. Who do you know that I know? I'm connected to the IS community because when in the early 90s, I was in CVI, in the Carrier Intelligence Center, CVIC, and got connected to them folks. And once you're in, you're in. And so I knew that she was wicked smart. And I was like, okay, well, how can I parlay this smartness into some way to be successful within the command? Not for me, though, because you know, I was bought into the Navy writ large, right? How can I make the Navy better? And my responsibility was this particular ship. And that was clearly to give audience to folks who were willing to not just be a pushover. And I think one of our first interaction was as close to combative as you could say combative without being combative. And I was like, oh yeah, she's gonna be on my squad. Because she was willing to say that hard thing. And the advice I would encourage your son to have, because he's still wearing the uniform, you know, many years different than us, is, you know, how can you have that tough conversation? Some might call it I got a course on crucial conversations, but how do you have that crucial conversation without breaking the person that you know that you're stronger than, and they happen to be the leader?
See, and I think that's what's kind of brewing with the mess right now. A lot of people are afraid to have those type of conversations. You know, they're caught up in being the friend, being cool, being influential, I guess, because now everything is about influence, you know, with the social media and, you know, doing stuff for the like button and the heart and everything. And when it's time to have those critical conversations, you know, you're not going to get a heart button. You're not going to get a like. You might get a thumbs down for a week or two until they get out of their feelings, but they need to hear it.
Agreed. Regrettably, I think that a trend that we have seen in the Navy since I've been paying attention, but also in the civilian community, and even in this election that's coming, I'm not sure when the podcast is going to air, but the election is upon us. And one thing that is become vividly clear is that we have gone away from what used to be a talent show and turned it into a popularity contest. Absolutely. And because in uniform, and I deal with Fortune 500, 100 companies, in addition to others, but you know, at those really high-end companies, it's the same thing. It's they're not willing to have those hard conversations, and it has become a popularity contest more so than a talent show. And there's a way to get back to that. Hopefully we will, but without anything drastic having to happen. But Yeah, if we can get away from the popularity contest and get back towards, who is the most fully
Talented.
qualified, and talented,
fully qualified.
then that should be easy.
I just would like to get back to an appreciation of transparency. Right? I mean,
Well,
you say like I am who I am, and you're gonna get me.
Right.
That's not necessarily always received. I think that you have a talent of feeding people your authentic self in a manner that it just sort of people receive it. Like they just sit there and they listen, even if you are criticizing. Right? you have
Assessing
certainly, we talk about communication, and I do think that there is a generational gap for communication. Like I know that in terms of my children, you need to learn how to communicate. Like I need you to communicate to me. You can text your friends all day, but I would force, and I know it doesn't make any sense, but I would force my daughters to confront their friends and face to face.
Yeah.
No. We're not doing this texting crap.
yeah.
Like absolutely not. So if,
Right.
they come to me, Mom, well, okay. You need to go and have that conversation.
Right.
Here's what you need to say.
Right.
And so, as they were younger, I would just feed them exactly what to say.
Right.
So in hopes that as they grew up, they could communicate, or they could develop sort of their own personality and be able to communicate that. And I think that's what's lost, but transparency is lost. Communication is lost, and transparency and communication is lost. Just, now we're just smiling at everybody.
Like you said earlier, like that's crazy, and it's just like no, it's not crazy. Like that's the thing to do. Like we was having a conversation earlier, faking it till you make it, right? It's just like they didn't know what to say, but you're gonna tell them exactly what to say until they understand what needs to be
Build
said.
their own
Now, you're
personality.
telling them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that we have now in the organization, in the Navy, is that these sailors, they coming in and that's all they know how to do. is text. 135 characters. That's all they know how to do. And when it's time to talk and communicate, it's just like they stumbling. They can't explain what's going on and how they got to where they at and things like that. And unfortunately, some of the leaders, they was kind of raised, when that wave was taking off. So the communication in them is kind of lost too.
So even for like with you right now, instead of being active, how do you deal with that younger generation? Because you have to change, because it's changing right in front of us.
So
It's changing right in front of us. So how do you deal with it? And how do you try to, like, from your level of leadership, how do you go back down and try to bring them so they can hear and understand what you're saying?
Yeah, I love this topic.
Yeah. So how do you, what you doing?
So for me, it's almost like parenting, right? Because it's like I keep telling them, like, you're an adult.
Right.
You're an adult, so you have to understand why you're doing what you're doing and be able to explain it. And because I was an instructor in the Navy, I'm not afraid of the silence, right? So I'm going to ask you this question, and then, when my fellow chiefs or whoever in the room try to speak over them or talk for them, no, don't do that. Let them speak.
Right.
Let them talk. And we can sit here and be quiet for a minute.
Yeah.
But you want to answer the question, because you're grown. And then at times I purposely treat them like a kid, and I see it. It makes them mad. It pisses them off. I said, well, you want to be an adult or you want to be a kid?
Right.
So then we go back to having adult conversations.
There's great wisdom in allowing that silence because they're so accustomed to instant information and flashes of information that when they realize they're being asked a question, they may need an extra moment to process their answer. But what happens is when leaders think they know the answer for them, and they are the quote unquote representative at that moment, they're willing to jump in and say, "Oh, he did, he thought, she did, she thought." Wrong. Thinking comes from not knowing, first of all. Secondly, let them process the question so they can answer it. The thing, there's 3 books I think are really helpful in solving this challenge that happens in and out of the Department of Defense, in and out of the Navy. And that is, one is called The Millennials. And just talks about things that are important to them. And we're at Gen Y or Z or whatever it is, and there's something else coming. But that book is super duper good and talks about the things that are important to them that may be generationally different. There's another book called The 5 Love Languages. Man, I love that book. It might be the best leadership book
That's a
I've
good
ever
one.
read.
Really?
It's a relationship book.
It's a
That's
relationship.
what I'm about to say. When you said, I'm like, that's something that women, they always talk about.
Yeah,
What?
it's
Five
a,
love
the
languages.
love languages are serious, right? I mean,
it's so
that's
good.
how we communicate.
Yes.
You know, that's how people communicate. The love language is, it's your thing. It's what you do.
What you do.
And it's a communication. And while we're here, we might as well talk about it, right? So, man, yeah, I don't know what kind of time we got, but
Hey,
I got a
it's
pretty
on
cool
you.
little story.
It's on you.
And this is not any particular order, so it's quality time, it's physical touch, words of affirmation, gifts, and services, active services. For me, gifts and services is like number 27 and 28 out of 5. I mean, yeah, but quality time, physical touch, and the words of affirmation are languages that I feel super comfortable communicating in. So when we were on Truman, and I have changed his name so much I can't remember his real name. But we were on Truman. I was up on the flight deck talking to the air departments. It's like 700 some odd people, whatever, up there. I'm standing on the yellow gear, which is white, but whatever. Standing up on yellow, standing up on the tractor. The pull
GSC's probably
tractor.
mad about.
My bad.
Yeah.
Looking down at the crew, and I see this dude Cunningham, and he's at the edge of the tractor, and I give him the nod because that's what we do where I'm from. And I keep talking to the crew. I jump off the back of the tractor and I go down. Later on in the day, and this dude's from Birmingham, Alabama. So later on in the day, I'm going down this right side of the starboard side of the ship, and I see Cunningham, and we're in the mess decks. I see Cunningham come down. And he goes, CMC, you seen me up on the flight deck, you ain't shake my hand. I'm like, well, it's like 700 of y'all. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You were down there. I was like, it's all good, Ham. And so I grip him. Bow, power shake, right? I'm 250, he's about 250, carrying it different, but still about 250. So there's just a thunder clap of hands.
Right.
And then I get on down there and I'm like, oh man, I need to go to the port side of the ship. So I'll go around, and back in the day we used to have ATMs on the ship. With the Navy Cash, I think it was called.
Yeah, Navy Cash.
So I'm going around there. Ham is over there. He's V1. He's over there with some of them other yellow shirts. And now I just shook this dude's hand. I'm on the start. I go to port side by the ATM. What's up, CMC? I was like, what's up, Ham? I grip him again. Bow, thunder.
Yeah.
Shake his hand hard. And then I bounced out of there, and I was like, that dude's language is physical touch. But if I hadn't read the book, I wouldn't know that physical touch is a language. And I always call it a language of communication, not just love.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I'm
I'm
tracking
thinking
that.
love in that regards of touch.
Yeah, no, it's physical touch, period. You have talked to somebody, I'm going to tell you right now, as a leader, you said something to somebody, you put your hand on their shoulder, they were facing you or they were facing away, and you can see their body react. That is someone whose love language is physical touch. Watch this. And so it happened to be Mick Pond Stevens was on the ship.
Okay.
And so he was taking it to his AIMD, doing something up there. So I go scoop him up, and we're walking through the hangar bay now. So we're coming out of, the jet test area into hangar bay 3, and I see Cunningham. And I'm like, first of all, homeboy, you're supposed to be up on the flight deck now down here in the hangar bay. First of all. And he's standing next to one of the jets, and we're cruising by, and he goes, what's up, CMC? I said, what's up, Ham? Bow, I shake him. There's Big Pond Stevens, and his aide was this guy named Garrison, I think Jeff Garrison. We're walking behind, and super cool dudes, in their own way. So they're walking behind me, and I grip Ham, and then I hear Mick Pond go, I don't know what happened right there. And if you know Stevens, he's not a stutterer. This dude says what he means what he says. He goes, I don't know what happened right there. I turn around, I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I mean, it's a hangar bay, we're on the way. It could be dripping from the ceiling, shooby-dooby-doo. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I think I just gave the Soul Brother shake. I said, what? So Cunningham shook his hand, look. He shook his hand like this.
Oh, gave him a little extra. Gave him a little extra.
I was running, dude. It was so funny to me. Because, again, you know, one, Mick Pond, good. I'm glad you have that experience. You know, he's a Native American, and so you know, his background isn't like traditional. So anyway, but for him to say Master Chief of the Navy, first time he gave the grip.
And he acknowledged it right away.
He's like this. I think I just Oh my gosh! But Cunningham, physical touch is his thing. And so the willingness to have that communication, and so generationally speaking, how much are we as the leaders willing to stretch and communicate? Now, the third book is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. This is something I started saying when me and Susan were together on Truman. There are people, and I'm one of them, who were told when they were young, go do this thing. Boom, I'm going out to do it. You need to run and do it. Okay, I'm fast. I'm running, going to do this thing. Some of us who grew up in that era, when asked why, would say, because I said so. Absolutely. Get to the part to where you start doing it. And what would happen when I became really honest with myself and thought about when I was younger and my response, the reason I would take off and go do that thing is because I trusted the source of information that was telling me to do it. And I'm going to get after it. And then the long version of the story is, at some point in my journey to get it done, at some point, I'm going to find out why. And then I'll finish the fight. Or I might find out after I'm done with it. But the source of trust is what got me going in the first place. What I discovered, people didn't like it. Truman was like a daggone science project, man. I tried all kind of stuff, just trying to be better, right? Oh, man.
But I never heard the Truman is like a bad ship. I always hear people talk great about it. Everybody I know that served on that ship, they always talk great about the Truman.
I mean,
I never
battle ease,
heard
hard
nobody speak
deployments,
negative about it.
Out and back. We went on a 9-month deployment, brought everybody back, and every aircraft had never been done. No suicides, no homicides, highest test scores in the. I mean, it was something. But the thing I believe is that when you start with why, these young folks will still get after it. That thing that was controversial is I would talking to the crew, and I was like, if somebody asks you why, just tell them. The thing is, many people who complain about those who ask why don't know why.
No.
And that was
because, like you said, that's a true statement. They're gonna ask you why, because they don't know why.
And the person they're asking,
the person
is complaining, because they don't know.
They don't know why.
Because again, that's like what he said.
Because somebody told them.
Somebody told them,
or they didn't find out why. Like you said,
they just never.
The way they grew up. I'm not gonna ask why. I'm gonna just get to it because I trust the person. You know what I'm saying? And if I need to know, they'll let me know. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we don't let them know at all. It's just, hey, because what we do as leaders, hey, let's get to it.
I think that when you're the willingness to know why, and the importance of knowing why, is a reflection of the culture. And so this is kind of a different topic, but culture and climate, from my perspective, culture is a top-down driven thing. We got the 10 bedrock principles up on the wall, and I think it was Ford who said quality is job one. And that was allegedly the culture, the motto. You know what I mean? Proud, trustworthy, and bold. On Truman, proudly we served on Mason, and so forth. Give them hell on Truman. I mean, and so what ends up happening is that's the image of the culture. But the fact of the matter is that climate, which is bottom driven, is really where the why is happening. That feeling, the climate, that feeling when the person drives up to their parking spot and bumps, that parking bumper, is that feeling they get, that first person they're going to have an interaction with, that feeling when they push, the door going, into that office building, with those businesses. That is what the climate really is. And so if we can imbue the why and the importance of why into the climate, then we can recreate and I think we kind of romanticize what it was like when we were young, right? But we can for real, create that environment. And I've seen it happen. I mean, and that was one of the differences with us on Truman, we were willing to live out the adage that Maya Angelou is given credit for saying this. I'm not sure who said it first, but people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so that just became who we were. And Hubbard is what we had it rough. Our Keith mess was so raw, Jack. You could say pretty much anything in that thing and get hurt. And there's be some consequences and repercussions if you say something out of pocket. I didn't realize they was calling me Ray K-47.
Ray K-47.
I mean, shooting people's face off. but anyway, you give it to me right. It's okay, you know. But the willingness, you know, to speak up and ask those questions. And people ask me a lot if I miss the Navy, and I really don't. But what I do miss is the opportunity to have these type of conversations. I do miss standing in front of the crew. We got 3,000 people in Hangar Bay 2 bleeding into Hangar Bay 3 and saying, any question, any topic, I'm prepared to be engaged. I miss that because the boldness of people and the willingness of people to ask a question allows that innovation, you know, to be illuminated within your organization. And so, that I miss.
A couple of years ago, when I was a semio, I had a conversation with a CEO about culture and climate and which one drives which. And, you know, because we was getting ready to do a climate survey. And I'm like, they surveying themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, they create the climate. You know what I mean? And
but are you judging the leader? You know, this being really judged, the leader, like that CO. Every question is to him or her. So I guess if I'm in my feelings type person, what people will say about my command may affect me.
Absolutely. The thing that we was talking about that particular day was like she thought like she controls the climate. And I'm like, no, you control the culture. Culture is driven down. The climate comes up. You know. And it was just an interesting conversation to hear you talk about that. I was just like, okay.
The thing though is that imagine this, and the thing I can speak directly to about Susan is that she was not a thermometer. It's this, it's that, it's this, it's that, it's this, and then sit back. She was like the thermostat at the house. You can see the current temperature. And then here's the setting we want it to be on. And so what leaders must do, great leaders must do, is be the thermostat. You know, you're going to walk into a room and have an impact on it. And it's not a topic I want to necessarily broach with y'all right now, but your appearance, my God, has an instant impact. And as an example, just kind of steer away from the Navy. As an example, when I go to some organizations, if it's a training environment, at some point or another, I got to take my jacket off and hang it, you know, on the back of the chair or whatever that I have near me, so that they can see that this discipline I'm talking about is a lifestyle, not just something I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And there's no better way to show that discipline is a lifestyle than, you know, I'd come out of this jacket and you say, oh, he's intentional about that thing. And so that it's a subtlety, but it's so important when it comes down to conveying what you're willing to do to communicate with someone else.
I think the why is important. I do. I think the why is a driver, right? I mean, if it goes back to we have to evolve. We have to evolve, right? And so, I'm definitely from the South. I definitely did many things that I didn't ask why, because my mom would have knocked me across the room like, who are you talking to right now, right? And so, but I don't mind it. You know, I don't mind it because I think that if you provide the why, I think that these younger people will buy into it. If they know what your ultimate goal is, then they'll buy into it. And so the why is extremely important.
That when you start with why, to your point, people will run through troops and jump over walls, and that's worthy, I think, of doing it. And I think leaders who have a sincere care for purpose and mission of their organization are willing, you know, to do that and figure out, you know, how do we communicate. To a conversation we had in the very, very beginning, those are skills and tools that a leadership coach or executive coach like me could provide to somebody who doesn't have them. Okay, you need to meet this number of times. So in the Navy, we have periodic evaluations. There used to be counseling or something that happened in between there. So many folks, midterm. So many people do not have, organizations don't have that. And so if I bring the idea of, okay, that certainly there is going to be a bonus analysis at the end of the year. And then there's this evaluation of the job performance throughout the year. Well, when else are you meeting with them? When are you giving, that guidance? When are you calibrating, their vision, their expectations, and enhancing their competencies and creating an opportunity for education and so forth? And those little things that we can build into good habits create a space where someone can become a better leader than what they naturally have. If we just give them the tools and they use them, because and they use them part is the separator.
Important.
Yeah. People say knowledge is power. I'm like, no.
Do you find, or AP, do you find yourself more now explaining the why? Like in the generation where they just told you, hey, go to, fly one and do whatever. Now it's more like you explaining yourself.
I do.
Where before you wasn't asking them questions. You just going to do.
I do, and I think part of that is because I do got kids.
Yeah.
And I bleed both. Some of the things I have to do with my kids, I got to take it to work and do it that way because I'm seeing how it reaches and how it affects, and vice versa. Some of the stuff I do at work, I got to bring it to the kids, and handle it that way too.
Well, let me ask you this. So the Master Chief of Navy put out 3. Jim Honey put out. He's from Oklahoma, by the way. He put out 3 letters this year that I happen to get a hold of: character, competency, and culture. Right. Competency, and so would you say, and I put this to everyone, I guess, is that when you've explained why and you've started with why for a period of time, then your validity and the trust with those folks has gotten greater. And so it may sound to some that when you start with why and you explain things and tell people why, that extends the amount of time that it takes to give the order, perhaps in the beginning, but because you have then developed a strength of trust, then when you start telling people to do things, they begin to ask why less because they trust the source that it came from.
Through experience, with my LPOs, with my chiefs, and with everybody, once you start working with me, I sit down with them and I explain a few things, right? And part of that is, it's going to be times I'm going to tell you why, and there's going to be times where I don't have time,
right?
And I'm going to just need you to get to it.
Yeah.
So they understand that from the gate, you know what I mean? Yeah. And those times when I don't got time to explain it on the front end, I try to circle back, and let them know. But it's about an hour conversation I have at the front end, and I tell them, this is what it's going to be like working for me. It's going to be times when I'm be able to explain, and it's going to be times where, hey, I don't got time, but I'm going to try to circle back. And if I don't, you can come back, ask me. But right now, I need you to get to it.
Right. And in that book, Start With Why, again, Simon Sinek was with this gentleman by the name of Dr. Gary Sanchez. And Gary Sanchez asked Simon Sinek, how do you find your why? And he didn't know. And so they worked together until they did, and they opened up the Why Institute. And I'm a why coach. And so imagine if, let me say it this way. If knowing what I know now when I was in uniform, especially as Inspector General, the IG comes in, people expecting to get fired. Something must have went wrong. We got the IG here. What we tried to do, me and Admiral Shalansky, turn it from a black hat organization, and I'm aging myself right there with that language. So in days gone by, there were black and white television shows. Some were called Cowboys and Indians. In that genre of show, the bad guy had a black hat and the good guy had a white hat. And so we were seeking to change it to a white hat organization. Knowing what I know now, if I could walk into a space, so let's just say if I'm coming to inspect you, then I'm going to call them and say, talk to your man, let him know I'm coming. That way, you're going to get my personality over my position.
Chiefing right there.
Come on, man. I'm trying to help you, help me, help you.
Yeah, chiefing right there.
And so, but if But if I didn't know the person, and I didn't have somebody in my network who did, which may or may not happen, if I could walk in and say, what we describe as our why operating system, the why, the how, the what. My why in life is better way, which means that success to me happens when I can find a better way and share it with other people. Okay. How I do that is by challenging the status quo and traditional thinking. But what I ultimately bring is a contribution to every person, every organization. If I can walk in with that, then when I start asking questions, because that's what I do, I start challenging how they do business in the past, because my brain can take that information and ADHD is my superpower, right? I can concentrate on a bunch of stuff at one time and see the pattern within that. And the way I do that is by asking questions back to back to back. Then that would have settled down, the hearts and minds of a lot of people before I walked in. Because otherwise I walked in, without the gray beard, which really subdues people now. I mean, people hold the door for me now, call me sir. That would never do that when I was clean shaven.
Right.
Keep bringing it kind of a different way, but that just creates a space where I can just communicate better.
Yeah,
and it's the willingness, and it kind of goes back. The willingness to communicate is, and the willingness to stretch ourselves in communication is where successful leaders lie.
So, go ahead.
And that's kind of important to me because, again, like I said before, that conversation that we have, and I encourage junior sellers to do it too. Like in this organization, I present my resume, so to speak, right, when they come in, because what we do is so important as leaders. We asking for you, a grown man or woman, to put your complete trust in me that I got you. Right. And like I tell them, I'm like, you don't even go get a haircut nowadays without a reference. And you check into my command, you check into my department, and without no question or no hesitation, you just gonna do what I tell you to do. Nah, I'm gonna give you my resume. I'm gonna let you know where I'm coming from. I'm gonna give you, here, I've done this, and this. People who work for me has been successful, things of that nature. Because again, on the front end, I need you to come in knowing that, okay, this guy, he can show improve. Right? Because what I'm asking from you is that important.
Right.
Right. Like ultimately, I got your life and your family's life in my hands.
Right. I'm responsible for you.
Yeah. And I tell them when they come talk to me and they seek mentorship from me, go talk to your DLCPOs. Request their resume, because see, they gonna want you to bust through that wall with no questions asked.
Right.
And you don't even know who you dealing with back there.
Right.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm gonna give you on the front end.
Yeah. That's important.
So for you coming in, you said 60. No, you came in
86.
86. I was going to say 68. 86. My bad. You was born.
Yeah. Life started in 68.
68. I was about to say, you were born 68.
That's hilarious.
You born 68. So you come in at 86. What was that young Ray Kemp like? What was his vision at that point? What drove you to say, you know what, I'm joining the Navy? Well,
so I had an uncle who had served over 30 years in the Air Force. And as a little kid, again, raised in Oklahoma, I would go in the summertime, I would go visit them. And my uncle, and it was around the time, just kind of set the stage, in the 70s is when we first started hearing a lot of information about hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes, and those types of things. And many of those things were stress related. And so I had 7 aunts, and I was raised by some fierce women. That's why I have a heart for ladies, because my mom was one of the fiercest angels I ever met in my life. I mean, she was crazy brilliant, just knew stuff way before the internet. And she ain't take no shit from nobody. Bruh. Again, the 70s now. Imagine this. We're just out of civil rights. We're sitting at a stoplight in the Volkswagen Bug we had, and felt somebody bump us from the back. And it's this white dude. And I'm like, I'm a little kid, but I know, make sure I ain't budging. And she gets out the car and goes back and knocks on this dude's window. It's like, yo, you just ran into the back of my car. You ain't that much of a rush? And he goes, ma'am, you drifted back into me. It was a stick shift.
Stick shift.
And she was like, oh. But in the 70s, a woman, to your point, a black woman standing in her, 10 toes down, in that moment. But so that's where I'm from.
Right.
So they would all go on off. My aunts would go on off to work. My uncle was retired. And he'd be there with us. And he'd be like, boy, going out there underneath that tree and pick up them twigs and bring me some baby carrots from the garden. That's the job I want. I don't want the stress and the high blood pressure stuff. I want that job. And so as I got older, I realized, okay, so he was in the military, so on and so forth. And I said, okay, well, that's a pathway for me. And I was good in school, and I was an athlete and so forth, but I didn't like school. And so I wanted to do something else. So when I joined the Navy and found out you had to take a test to get advanced, well, I was hot. Man, I was hot. But anyway, that's what took me in, is because I didn't want to have that, the stress of that type of a job. But that's the mindset of a child. So when I got started, my mindset was, I'm going to just go hard in the paint, in today's language. I'm going to just do my best and see what happens.
Right.
But the goal was to make E5, as I said earlier, and get to the 20-year mark so I could take it back to the
And
career.
what was your rate?
I started as what we call, these days we're ITs. In those days, I was a data processing technician that was also the name changed or merged with the RMs. And that's when I knew, dude, I'm good. So, because our ASVAB score was one thing, and their ASVAB score was something else. So when they put it together, I was like, I know I'm going to make the test now. Because we have a real small rating, merged with the second largest rating in the Navy at the time, RMs. I was like, here we come. And that's, at the 10-year mark where I made first class. But there's, the thing I'd like to emphasize, though, is that it was really, really, really hard. And I was like, man, I ain't no punk. I ain't going to bow down. I'll just, and I didn't like computers, full disclosure. However, it doesn't matter if you like it. Are you the best at it? You know what I mean? And so as soon, I made IT Master Chief, and I was the N6 for the Navy back when we had N6, not N2 and 6. And then I made Master Chief, and I was like, I'm gone. And I came into the command program. But the mindset, though, to your point, was I'm going to just do my best to see what happens. I didn't want to get to a particular position and so forth. Even later on, as I made chief, made master chief, I didn't have master chief. Now I got the opportunity to go to the CMC program. Okay, I don't know what happens next because we didn't do a good job. I didn't do a good job of learning and educating myself on what happens after CMC. And so once I did, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who's going to pick me, but I'm going hard in the paint. And just to see what happens.
So that makes sense.
So, and we do a top 5 GOAT podcast, too. And then you're 33 years. Who's your top 5 favorite Chiefs?
Favorite Chiefs?
Yeah, it could be Chiefs, Senior Chiefs, Master Chiefs. Give me 2 to 3. That's on top of your head.
Yeah, well, first is Keith Gooseby.
Keith Gooseby.
Yeah, Keith Gooseby. He was Airland days gone by. He also interviewed for Master Chief of the Navy. Of course, April and Suze are my people. And they would be in a if I was going to look across the great nation and say these folks got to be in the top. But when it comes to impact to me, Keith Gooseby, Fred Hyde, and the third, I'll just keep my top 3. The third was this guy named Anthony Harps. Now, Harps, we called him Harpo before Harpo, like literally before. Anyway, so Harpo, I met him as a second class. Retired as a senior chief. He's actually the librarian at the Naval Academy now. But one thing that he was saying outside of my presence, this goes back to the sponsorship, mentorship conversation. One thing that he was saying outside of my presence was, Kemp might be the one. He might be the one. Now, I was DPSA Kemp. Matter of fact, I reached out to him a couple years ago on social media. His response was, is this DPSA Kemp? But I had, that's so true. But what was happening is that in those days, the data processing technicians, there just wasn't a lot of black people in that rate. I was one of the first ones. And when they found out that I was a DP, they were like, Harpo was telling people, man, he might be the one, like for real, the one. And I got wind that he was saying that, though I didn't comprehend it. I thought, maybe I am.
Yeah.
I bring that up because back to the communication piece, the words that we say to people really matter.
Yeah.
When I got to Kearsarge, there were some brothers. I just seen Harry Adair yesterday, ABF, and then further, I went on to be a Chief Warrant Officer, Scott Tyndall, Leon Walker. And when I first got to the command, we were running and calling cadence. And I'm a cadence singer, not a cadence caller or a cadence singer.
Writer. Made up whole new songs.
Kind of an aficionado. But we were running, Leon was calling cadence, and it was my second day aboard the ship. I checked on the 4th of August, my son's birthday. The next day, 5th of August, happened to be my birthday. We're getting underway from the Jebel Ali. And the list had just came out. And so I go to PT because that's my get down. And Leon calls for a motivator, come on out there. And nobody budged. And I was like, and this is my second day on board. I was like, I just came for show duty. I got some things. And so he sang a couple more Jodies and then, or cadence songs. And then he goes, motivator, come on out. And I was like, came right on out there, rolled up behind him, and they're looking like, who's this guy? You know, some new senior chief just checked on board. And I got it and went bonkers.
Yeah.
The next day, or that night at dinner, Scott Tyndall said, okay, motivator. And that became my name. And no matter where I was in life in my career, I had to live up to that name throughout my career. And that's why my energy is on 10, not just here, because you get like 7.5.
Yeah.
Last night we was on 10. He'll tell you. So the language that we use with people, from the 5 love languages, from starting with why, communicating at the level they are, millennials we were just talking about, the thought that our words mean something is just super duper real.
To make chief, you can just go with the flow, right? Senior chief, master chief, that's intentional.
Right.
Especially master chief. That's intentional.
I give some latitude because there's some obvious things.
Yeah.
Should I really have to tell these folks, get an education, whether it be parchment, or certification, qualification? I mean, and so if someone has created this space and they have made it into the chief's mess, or they're at first class level or whatever, then from my perspective, there's some, dare I say, common sense that they should apply. Yes, an education, absolutely. Collateral duties, yes. Do it. Hard is authorized, so do the jobs that might be considered hard, and then have an impact and influence on your work center, your division, your department, your command, your community, and then if you're in position, of course, impact on the rest of the Navy. I mean, from my perspective, those are the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Do that trash right there, but most importantly, in your heart, go hard in the paint. And so, forgive me for the brevity of the answer. But the fact of the matter is there's some obvious things, and then there's probably some pearls that are written out there for every rating on these types of jobs you should do, do that, of course. But let your heart be one to where I shall not fail. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to lead the way all the way.
Because most oftentimes, like, some people say, oh, man, it should be given to me. The world that we in now, because you have some first classes that did 20, didn't make chief. But I always say, hey, it's a blessing that you made it that far, no matter if it's first class or not.
Very true.
But my mentality on it is like, I think today it's easy to make chief. I just feel like it's because there's so many things out there to tell you how to do it and what to do.
Right.
Like it's like, okay, well, we spoon feeding you.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
We are. So now, like you saying to your point, going to senior chief or master chief, it's a little bit different.
It is.
Because the percentages get smaller. But I think just with the group that I was with, and once I understood what a chief was, I just felt like it got too easy for me. They got too easy for me making senior chief and master chief. Like, the guys like the Jeff Barlow, Amos Harvey, those people on the Nassau, to be honest with you, some of my coaches, I just had to believe what they were telling me. So I'm not asking why. Oh, that's all you want me to do? Oh, I got that. Oh, well, that's too easy.
Yeah, the willingness to come back and say, what else?
What else? Because I know what I want.
Right.
And you educate me on what I need to get. Okay.
Right.
This is anything in life. That's after being retired, getting with the right people.
Right.
And say, hey, this is the level I want to go. This is the direction I want to go in.
Okay.
All right, so let me surround myself with the right people. I did it before when I was active duty.
Right.
So let me do it now that I'm retired world. So because it's out here.
Fact.
It's out here. We have the right people out here to make our visions come true. Whatever that was, 4 or 5 years ago, whatever that was, you saying, well, I'm going to be a teacher and teach these kids. Well, bless your heart, Sue. I'm on your team, but I can't do it. But that was really your vision, because guess what? The person that you are, you can deal with that, that age group. I can deal with them for a certain time. Then I'm going to tell my daughter, hey, it's time to come get them. So it's just different in the world that we live in today, because they're expecting, that, I should be awarded, even though we talking about, well, everybody don't get a trophy, but we still giving out trophies.
We do.
Right.
And that
Participation award.
that culture though is one that, with the right amount of intentionality, could be modified. I don't know when it's going to happen, but perhaps there will be a time where someone says, well, why didn't I make chief? I did all these things. You get a list of here's why.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, that's not the culture I grew up in. I'm full disclosure, I'm sitting on my front porch swinging my feet without no judgment.
No judgment.
Do
no
what y'all
judgment.
do. That's your heart.
Right. Because they really should go away with the fully qualified and best qualified. It should be best qualified. I shouldn't be just selecting somebody that's fully qualified.
Yeah, it should be best. And in my day, the language was best and most fully qualified.
Yeah.
Best and.
Yeah, it should just be best. I'm selecting the best of the best.
Right.
Not somebody who just, they did everything they was supposed, they were told to do.
Right. That. Yeah.
Then you weed out.
Yeah. Sometimes.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I definitely.
Yeah, that's a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you tell folks, you give them the answer to the test, they don't pass the test, then that's what a great separator.
But there's also a flip side, because there's those things that they say that you're supposed to do, and you do those things, and
you don't do them. You don't get selected yet.
Yeah,
you still don't get selected.
Yeah, I mean, look how long it took me to make senior chief.
Yeah,
Well, I did all the things.
You did all the things. You're right. And in them instances like that.
I did those ships back to back.
Hold up, homie.
Yeah. I just did two ships back to back. What are you talking about?
Right.
And so.
And your mother.
And I'm a mom. And I'm a wife.
Yeah.
And I go home and cook.
But the majority of the time we look at the woman supposed to be doing, household duties, per se. But when you out there, like, I'm out here doing this, and I'm a woman, so I don't want to hear nothing you got to tell me.
Right.
I can't even feed into that energy.
Yeah, it was rough, I think. But I also think that on the flip side, I think, when I did come back in, because I was on terminal, when I did come back in, I was going to make chief, and then when I made chief, I was making master chief, and that's sort of I was driven.
Yeah.
And really, I was driven by not having the person who looks like me, and never having that kind of leadership, or that woman to guide me and to say, hey, this is how we do it,
Right.
And I just think that was what drove me. But I certainly was driven to make Master Chief, because I wanted to be a woman Master Chief.
Right.
But when I came off of Truman, I was done. I was getting my degree. I was done. And, Vic Dalton was like, oh, and I was like, no, I'm not, I'm not here for it right now. As much as I love you, I'm done. Like, I'm done, because I did back-to-back ships. I'm a DLCPO on a carrier as a chief, and so I'm still not, in the good graces of this intel community that just wants me there to tell them how they should do things, or how it should be done, but don't want to give me anything else, right? And so then, of course, all of a sudden I make senior chief, and we need you to go to Airland. It's sort of that thing, but I I don't think that it's
They
that
finally
easy.
got it right though, Sue. Let me say
Well,
that. It took a
well,
while,
yeah,
but I
it
know
did.
that's not the answer that you want to hear, but somebody finally got it
Yeah,
right.
you know, here's what I think. I think that
I'm only
I think
speaking
that
from
I think that the
a
Navy
board
missed out.
experience as being there, because I know
Right.
we see those things and we like, well, they're no brainers.
right. I think,
Yeah, some people are no brainers.
I think the Navy misses out, you know, because like when I made Master Chief, and there was quite a few people that had never met me or Master Chiefs that were like, you really need to go CMC, and we need women CMCs, and we certainly need women CMCs like you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too little too late at this point. You know what I mean? I was willing to not even take Master Chief. I was willing to go home as a senior chief because I wasn't going back to another ship. I
I got you.
I was like,
I got you.
I'm not
I got
doing
you.
it.
I got you.
You know, it's the conversations that you have to have. And I told the detailer at the time, I was like, listen, I'm not giving you an ultimatum. This is not an ultimatum. Susan Suddeth is happy. And let me tell you something. At the end of the day, I made Master Chief, and that I can go home on that today.
Yeah. It's a
You
good
know what I
feeling.
mean? I made Master Chief. I did what I did. I did all of the work that I was supposed to do. I'm not doing it again. I'm not going back out to sea. I promised my kids when I came off of Truman, they were like, "You're not going to be doing this again, are you?" No, I'm not. You know, at some point, I transitioned, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a good leader because that's just the person in me. Like, that's just what I do. And I'm going to be good at my job, but I'm not going back out to sea because now I need to focus on my kids and my family and stuff like that. And so
it's a hard choice.
It's rough. Like,
It's a hard choice.
You know, I don't know.
Because you
So
chose the Navy for so long over
I did.
family.
I absolutely did. And I think,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I think in order to be successful, I think you have to make that hard decision.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt. And because who are you going to be
what is
committed to?
work-life balance? Is there such a thing? Like, we talk about it, but
No.
I don't think that any
There's no
person
true
that makes
equal
it
balance.
to the top has a balanced life. Like, that is the craziest
No
thing
way.
I've ever heard.
I
That's
think
not
the
a Navy, that's
better.
in anything.
It's
That's in
Right.
anything.
I think the right language is work-life harmony.
Right.
Because the harmony being multiple sounds being played at the same time, the balance would infer that at some point it's going to be equal, and it ain't.
It's never going to be
And so
equal.
for those who are, and I just use myself, I was willing to do it all,
Right.
in the workplace, and then figure it out, you know, at the house. And then navigating, okay, how do I do that right? I mean, great wife, cool kids. I let them keep my last name. I let them kids. I'm playing. But trying to figure out how to navigate that thing was tough. And regrettably, we can find mentors and sponsors in some areas in life, but we should find them if we're able in all areas. And because I didn't have a good mentor, sponsor, example per se, in some areas in my life and career, I just didn't do good. And then others, I just figured it out on the fly. I mean, I'll build a plane in flight, I don't mind. But sometimes when you have someone, a leader who's willing to help those folks who are, and they don't have to be struggling, they could be doing it all the way right. Let me show you another way.
Right.
Let me show you let me give you some additional tools. You got this full tool bag, and you're using everything in that bag. I'm a golfer. You know, I use every single club in my bag. I'll pull out with confidence and swing it. Well, here's another club. You should use this one too, and then add this. I mean, so I think that great leaders are willing to help people in a place where they don't even know they need it.
Right.
Wow.
And see, and that's like to your point. You know, I think in our career, there's going to come a time when we got to make a choice, right? And it's going to be, how bad do I want this? Or, you know what, I don't want it that bad. I'm good over here. And I think a lot of people think that in this society we live in, they're supposed to get all of it.
Right.
And it's just
Right.
like, that's not going to happen. Like, you can't have all of it,
Right.
especially in this organization. You know, like, you're going to have to make commitments and sacrifices, and sometimes it's going to be the family that's making the sacrifice.
Sure.
And like what I tell those sailors all the time, when you out doing that deployment, you know, you make sure that the sacrifices that your family is making is worth it. And how do you do that? By coming out here and doing the job.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? By making rank. By if your parents or your kids that you crying so much about, if they saw what you're doing right now, would they be happy or not?
Yeah, would they be?
You know?
Would they be proud or disappointed? Yeah.
And the thing is that with delayed gratification is one thing we talk about with regard to finances and building things, so on and so forth. That happens in relationships as well.
Right.
So there was some, as the reading goes, this person stood to watch, looking, the storm clouds of war seen brewing on the horizon. This person stood there, they see their family needing a hand to hold and their advice, and they still stood to watch.
It's in you, still in you.
It's woven in there. The thing is, though, when I hear my daughter, say to a cousin or a friend or somebody in their workplace, my dad was appointed by the President of the United States to sit on the American Battle Monuments Commission. That's something like a big deal.
It is a big deal.
They know that didn't happen just on the strength of my name.
No.
That was work that had to be done, and their willingness to support me in that work makes them a part of me.
Yes, sir.
And the same thing with my ex-wife, man, great lady, and she is also realizes that because of those things that they did, that had an impact and space on who I was, in uniform. And so it's worth doing. It's worth figuring out how to communicate. It's worth finding the right mentors and sponsors in days gone by. And it's weird how people call their proteges or the people that they mentor mentees. It just seems like bad grammar. And I'm not a school guy, so I don't know.
I don't even use the word.
It should just
Mentees.
be. Yeah, that's not even a word. It should be protege. But the fact, I think, is that for people who have had that measure of success, that they make themselves available.
Right.
But the onus is on that protege who wants to find that success.
That's it.
Don't think I'm going to be turning around and reaching. I'm dropping seeds like Johnny Appleseed. You know what I mean? I'm planting trees that'll bear fruit that I'll never taste, but it's going to feed nations.
Right.
The thing, that's the bar right there. I mean, I don't. So the thing is, my willingness to drop seeds is a reflection of who I am.
Right.
Their willingness to pick them up or make their way to the source is a reflection of them. And I think we screwed that up. When we started assigning people mentors and so on and so forth, I think we probably could have did that in a way that would encourage people to find, seek after, see the value in having a mentor and sponsor, more so than just you stick this person with that person and kind of drive on from there.
I agree with that because even in the Chiefs mess when we do the season, I don't agree with the assignment of sponsors, and I don't agree with who wants to be a sponsor. I think that I agree with that. Like, I think that you should be able. I was selected to chief, and you know what? The only hindrance or the only thing that they shouldn't be able to do is say, I want my chief to be my sponsor. No, absolutely not. That's not going to be beneficial to you because then you're not going to get anything else besides what you already know.
Right.
And so, that's
imagine
the only.
if the pressure of having a sponsor was at the 2, maybe 3 week mark rather than at the beginning.
Right.
And then that way, you get your book, you had interaction within the Chiefs mess,
You know some people. You learn.
I mean,
to know
'cause
some people.
if I'm brand spanking new and I get there, maybe I don't know anybody, maybe I knew somebody from a different command. But if if the first 3 weeks is, teaching the keel, by the way, you're welcome. That was one of the fun things in my career, being able to work on that. But teaching the keel and whatever CPO NDOC looks like now, and then the interaction within the Chiefs mess, you get to know the people that are there. If in that period, second, third week, now you choose who you want to be your sponsor, it would be a different kind of perspective and way, to do it. But the Navy is a science project. We got ideas and we try stuff. We come out with don't ask, don't tell. All of a sudden, 93, we bring women to ship. 30 years later, we got a CNO, it's a female, which is cool. But put women on the ship. We have don't ask, don't tell. We repeal that thing, and now we serve with people with different lifestyles. It's a science project for the nation, really.
It really
If the military can do it, surely we can have equal pay, equal compensation, across the board. That we don't. But it could be. It's been a pleasure to be here, man.
Oh,
I mean that thing.
Yeah,
It has been.
I thank you for coming through and blessing us.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I do.
Motivator.
Motivator.
Yeah, we got we had such good. I gotta lead somebody. Yeah,
Fun
because the leader's in me.
Oh, man.
And there's a fellowship in the suffering. I'm an athlete. I grew up playing football in Oklahoma, much thinner than I am right now. I joined the Navy at 135 pounds, 6'1". But before the season began, we had what we call 3-a-days. The law said we could only do it twice, so we said it was 2-a-days, but it was 3. And it was hard like a diamond jack. I mean, it was super duper hard. And I liken that to workups before we go out on deployment. I liken that to Chiefs initiation. There's a fellowship that grew, between me and Bernard Roan and Dana West and all of those of us who were just, suffering in that Oklahoma heat, in the summertime, preparing for the season. I got to know their routes and I got to know their blocking responsibilities and things like that. Same thing in the workup cycle, as we get a ship ready to go out to sea for the first time. It's hard. I mean, Oris and all the things.
It's a lot of work going into that. Man.
And that's in that suffering, and the suffering is necessary. In that suffering, there's a fellowship that is developed. And once it is clicked in, we got to fight to maintain that thing. And so, again, hard is authorized. And for leaders, knowing what to do in the midst of the hard is a separator.
And most important, like this being a leader, knowing that is having the support of the mess.
Come on. I talked to
like I know for you it's just like, wow, okay, the Truman was bigger, larger than the other ship, so it's like, wow, I gotta lead all these chiefs
who don't need each other. Man, look, because on a DDG, if we're getting stores on board, the boats can't do it all by themselves. We got to have line handlers down there. Then box kickers can't put everything. LSs and RSs, different times.
It's the same thing.
All right. So those box kickers and stew burners and none of them could do their job without us coming to help. But I got the Truman. One of the first ops intel briefs I went to, they were debriefing the upcoming underway, and I asked the first one. I said, Z Butts is his name. I asked Z, he's captain now. I said, so how many people you need, for line handlers? He's like, line handlers? I got 120 able seamen down there. We don't need no help. And I was like, wow. And that was a moment where I was like, we don't need, supply got 300 some odd people, 7 of them in the air department, so they really don't need anybody.
Some people believe in that, like, nah, I got what I got. We're gonna make it happen.
And so to find chiefs that were willing to bring on that perspective of we, not me, and to create that level of care amongst everyone is what which is I think why you hear people telling great stories about Truman, not just the battle ease and all the big accomplishments, but the culture that was there, and it's speeds up, slows down, depending on who's in charge, but our willingness to do those things. I mean, I got a Ranger tab and for another reason back in my younger life. And one thing they say about airborne and Rangers is that Rangers lead the way, and the appropriate response is all the way. And the Chief's message should be that we lead the way. I'm going to help you with your rating competency. I'm going to help you in your responsibilities at our command, whether it be ship or shore. And I'm going to help you in your life, so that when you leave here, you are an asset to society and not a detriment. And that's what real leadership and chiefing is about. And so when I go to mess events or even to that retirement ceremony, spontaneously had the opportunity to speak at Mercedes Cleveland's retirement, it's about ensuring that we're willing to do all the things. And the reason that the memory work that goes into being a chief, whether it be I was born on the crest of a wave and rocked in the cradle of the deep, and we did those for a reason. And to realize that I've been in the Navy all my blooming life because there's always been a chief, whether they had the name and title of chief, it don't matter. It was always a chief there, and now that's me. And so I think forever That is part of who I am.
Yeah.
And when I have the opportunity to sit down and impact hearts and minds, influence a community to try to do better, and not try to do better, influence a community and give them the option to do better. And this is binary.
Yeah.
It's 1 or 0. Either you is or you ain't.
Right,
You are or you are not.
right. Yeah.
So let me change the language and say, give them the opportunity to either do better or maintain course and speed. So I believe in that deeply. And my hope, even with my own company, Kemp Solutions, as I go into organizations and I'm talking to them about how to build resilience and loyalty within the organization, it is done with the same measure of vigor that I speak about the Chiefs Mess.